Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Morning for the viewers who are joining us in India, and evening for viewers who are joining us from United States of America. I'm extremely delighted to have with me the erudite, former diplomat and ex-central minister, scholar, MJ Akbar. Pleasure to have you on the show, sir. We've been speaking on the US election. I had Dr. Arvind Khanna for you, and he has placed his, he senses the pollsters are telling him that Biden will come. Of what is your sense, MJ Akbar, sir? How do you look at it? Who will you place your bets on?
Well, I look at facts and figures which are emerging and the first trends that are being articulated, which were in the air, but in elections, only very, very extremely brave people are confident about the outcome. Let's now deal with the first surprise of this morning. I don't know 4 hours later what will be the situation, but the first surprise of this morning, which I must insist that everybody acknowledges, almost every pollster said that this was a walkover.
Okay.
The average percentage leads that Biden had was supposed to be 9% or 12%, or in a tough case, 7%. That kind of an one-way sweep doesn't seem to be happening. And the two states where this would have ensured a kind of Biden sweep would have been overwhelming victories in Florida and Texas. Now, overwhelming victories in Florida and Texas, I don't know the outcome yet. Pradeep, you don't know the outcome yet. But there doesn't seem to be an overwhelming sweep. In fact, if the balance is scales are tilting in any side, they may be tilting towards Donald Trump. Second, in many areas, the vote of the American African has not been as significantly pro-Biden as it might have been under Hillary Clinton or Bill Clinton. Of course, Bill Clinton was a great hero and undisputed champion of that vote, and he did a lot as well. So we might be seeing some significant drop. I don't know to what extent, but these are, as I said, emerging realities. Far better, I think, indication, which is probably why Florida is showing the results it does, is that the Hispanic vote has moved to a significant degree towards the Republican president, maybe for the economy, maybe for other reasons. So these trends are emerging, and I think they will solidify. What can be said for certain is that there's traditional democratic territory, which is the whole of the West Coast, virtually, and the strong states in the Northeast and New York. They will go definitely for Biden. And as for the rest, we shall see what we shall see.
There is a latest update I want to tell you, that Republicans have taken lead over Democrats in Texas with a very small margin of 15,000 votes. So it's very initial trend right now is what, as you are also concluding. But I want to get to the specifics on how, whether the Democrats come into power or Republicans, how will it impact the India-US relations on a broader level and also on the nuance?
Pradeep, relations between nations are built on a mature set of interests. They should not be. They should not be vulnerable to the normal upheavals of governments, which is inevitable in any democracy. The point of a democracy is that you cannot predict who will be in government. But nations build their relationships on the basis of carefully structured interests. And these interests are play. I mean, if you look at, for example, the signing of the LEMOA, which has just taken place. Now, the signing of the LEMOA is not a one-off development. It is something that has been in process for the last, 2 decades, or nearly 2 decades. It's a stage by stage, gradual creation of trust and a strategic understanding of what our needs are and where we can use this strategic understanding to our mutual benefit that has led to it. Irrespective, I mean, President Donald Trump was there in office when this was signed, but this was signed on behalf of America, and I'm sure any American government, of course, if his own comes, then there is no issue, but any American government which comes will understand that the State Department or the
But
Pentagon, who have
but
actually
I would like to
cooperated.
stop you there because if you look at it, the stance of the Democrats and the Republicans vis-a-vis Jammu and Kashmir has been different. So their stance, way of looking at geopolitics of Asia has also been different, and nobody knows this better than you. So how will the India-US relations pan out? Because we've also looked at relations depending on the leader camaraderie. What are the 2, 3 brass tracks that we should look at, sir?
Well, those who think that American voices, however powerful they might be, or whichever office they might be in, can actually deflect India from its very principal position on Jammu and Kashmir, from the very steadfast and, as I said, a position which we have held for a long, long time since the legal accession of Jammu and Kashmir to the Union of India, which is in October 1947. That is not going to change. There is no way that is going to change. And it doesn't matter who in America says what, because we do not run a country on the basis of what any foreign voice might say from wherever in the world. So I think that much clarity and that much, again, I use the term maturity, should exist in whichever administration takes over after the elections.
Are
So
you?
I do not,
Yeah, please.
I do not see the any fringe element of any main party actually being able to destabilize a very powerful and building partnership between our two nations.
Another breaking news coming up, sir, is that Donald Trump has swept the state of Oklahoma, secures almost twice the votes that of runner-up. So the pollsters who are predicting that it will be a walkover for Biden, I think at least the initial trends are suggesting that it is not a walkover for sure. I want to get to another point which is very important. Now, how do you look at, well, let's imagine a situation where the Republicans come back to power, and we've looked, as you've mentioned in an initial conversation, that the equation that Prime Minister Narendra Modi personally enjoys with world leaders is very important, and that's how he's taken the India's diplomatic wherewithal forward. Will that change if Democrats come into power? Because people have also looked at the current government being very close to the Trump administration.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, it would be certainly be very unwise of Washington uh, to actually damage or impair a relationship that has been so carefully built up, right? And the governments change. That's fine. I mean, after all, if you look at France, the relationship that was built in France by Prime Minister Narendra Modi uh, was started when President Macron was not in office. But President Macron picked up from where he found the relationship and developed it further. And I'm quite confident that whoever is in office will actually keep moving forward. That whoever is president will not listen to fringe voices from some radical fringe. Right, I know there's a lot of element of that in America at this moment, and it is getting a disproportionate share of audiovisual space in the media, and certainly in social media. But policies are thankfully not created by social media.
Well, you are being very diplomatic in your response. Is what I can say. The diplomat in you is coming forward, MJ Akbar. But I want you to give me some brass tacks. What are the three things in the near-term future which will be very important in the way India-US relations pan out after the US election result?
Well, I think the partnership that is being created in our strategic understanding of Quad, for example, is going to be one. Our approach to the Indo-Pacific is certainly going to be one. You know, people think of one of the problems we have, frankly, in India is, or maybe in both countries, but certainly in India, is that we still look at America geographically and psychologically from the viewpoint of the old colonial days. That you can reach only America via London, or you can reach America only by flying west. No, you can also reach America by traveling east through the Indo-Pacific. And in fact, the technology of America and the sort of economic power of America, the intellectual power of America, if you like, is quite solidly based in the eastern coast. That's where the Silicon Valley is, and that's where Seattle is, and that's where we are. The American brands, for example, that you see in India are quite often actually East Coast based. So, in any case, we are going to build our relationships on multi-stage, multi-front basis with them. Certainly, it's no secret to say that we are beginning to share a growing understanding that yes, we have to deal with some of the problems that are created by an aspirant China, and we have to manage them, we have to deal with them. We as a nation do not want conflict, but we as a nation also will not shy away from conflict if conflict is imposed upon us. And that is a very important thing, if conflict is imposed upon us. And I think the world understands and respects, yes, soft power is very important. Soft power is very important. It's a term that is often used in the context of America, but soft power itself is only so if you do not also have a bit of hard power to back it up.
My last question to you, MJ Akbar sir, is that how do you look at the relationship with respect to China? Because Trump has been very vocal in its stance to support India and China. Do you think that Democrats will also follow the same line?
Democrats have to listen to the American people, don't they? And every government in any democracy has to do that. And the worries that have emerged out of some of the behavior that we are witnessing are genuine. The pandemic has actually brought to the surface a lot of subterranean or hidden issues. And I think our Prime Minister was very, very clear. In fact, that's one of the points that he has made so firmly. It's one of the strongest elements of the doctrine, of his doctrine, which is that the age of expansionism is over. I was only reading 2 days ago in the Telegraph in the the Daily Telegraph of London, that China has now actually taken over, according to many people in Nepal, a certain amount of Nepalese territory as it moves to create, what shall we say, perhaps new frontiers. And I think these situations have to be dealt with, and have to be dealt with very firmly. We, under the Prime Ministership of Narendra Modi, are very clear. We have made it very clear in Dokla, we have made it very clear in Ladakh, that yes, no one is more positive when we see a positive hand of peace, friendship, trade, commerce, cultural relationships, right? Educational relationships, cooperation in world affairs, on climate change, cooperation at the United Nations. In all these sectors, if we see a positive approach from anyone, a neighbor particularly, we are always ready to travel together. But hostility, expansionism are not going to be acceptable to the Indian nation, to the Indian people, and to the Indian Prime Minister.
Well, on that note, I would like to thank you, MJ Akbar sir, for that extremely erudite conversation. But you, as usual, been very diplomatic. I was expecting you to, be a little less diplomatic. But as you suggested, that relations between two nations are not based on just when it comes to power, it is also based on the broad history which the two nations share. And at this moment, let me also tell you that a very sad news is coming up, that Mumbai police has reached Arnab's residence, and there is a blatant assault of free speech which we are seeing in Maharashtra. And on that note, I would like to thank you, and let's wait and watch how the US election results turn out. Thank you, sir. Very
Thank you, Pradeep.
thanks.
It'll